Hey, Mikyla, how you doing? Okay, thank you so much for kicking things off here. Got your poster up here. Really, really great start. Loving it so far. Definitely. I'm gonna try to get this into the screen. There we go. That's perfect. Okay, I want to address your writing first, Mikyla, because there's a few things of pertinent interest here. I think that warrant a little bit of further discussion. Select and mask, absolutely, triangulating more similar to the others. And of course, that's very, very important. I think the two main things to really concentrate on in composite work in Photoshop are light source and resolution of the images that you're using to composite. Cutout filter, I think, works well for the kind of surreal subject matter, kind of a dream state, the fact that unicorns aren't real, or are they? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think the cutout filter is a good choice, definitely. I think it was wise not to present this in realism. I definitely think that was a good idea given the subject matter itself. So I agree with that. Used to blur on the background. So you're talking about selective focus. Again, another really good technique there. The most important thing I have learned so far is to save each item in a mask. Yes, save your masks, definitely. And, if you don't want to save, or if you're I guess a shorthand way of saving your mask is just to make sure that in the original in the original image, if you just save the selection as an alpha channel, then you can just mask it as you need it. But typically what I do is I'll save a file, the images that I use to place in the composite, and in that file, I will save the selection as an alpha channel, and I'll also save the mask. So yes, definitely that is a good workflow. And then I agree with your compositional um, choices as well. Specifically, the brown horse directly facing the raccoon, creating kind of a tense relationship here. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the work itself. I think that it's a really, really good start. I think it's a fantastic start. One of the things I would recommend is let's get this horse more centered, because that horse right there is the focal point, right? So I right now he's off to the side. I'll just nudge him over just a little bit, maybe just showing a little bit more of the background horse. And I think that would be great. Now, the credits look fantastic. However, I think they're a little bit large, a little bit difficult to read as well. I think there's another classmate who used a technique I thought that was right here, presenting a color strip on the bottom of the poster to uh, use to kind of give more legibility to that typographic composition. Good job setting up in that looks like movie credits, so that's fantastic. One thing I think is the credits are kind of creeping up. Oh, credits almost come up almost a whole third of the way of the poster. So I would recommend maybe reducing the size of the poster and increasing the width. I'm sorry, reducing the size of the type. And increasing the width, and just kind of reconsider this typographic format here, as right now it's really kind of centered to the center. I think we can use a little bit more of the width, and less of the height. So build it wide and not up. See what I'm saying? Um, Another thing I want to mention is now that during week 3 we've introduced the use of blending modes and other type techniques. So I want you to take a look at those and think about ways that you can use blending modes to add further visual engagement, specifically to this horse here. I think that we could add a little bit more contrast here, and some interesting technique visuals, creating excuse me, textures, and I think that's going to experiment. I think that's going to create further enhanced visual engagement. So experiment a little bit in that regard, and really try to employ your blending modes and your type techniques. Um, One of the things I would recommend in the presentation of type is I see you've got a stroke added to your type uh, title treatment here. Now, stroking type is something that we don't recommend. Professional designers very, very rarely stroke type. And the reason being is because it actually changes the shape of the letter forms. Being that the stroke either resides on the inside of the contour line, right on the center of the contour line, or on the outside. If it's on the inside, you can clearly see how it makes the letters thinner. If it's on the outside, it affects the negative space between the letters. And if it's on the middle, if it rides on the middle of the contour line, it kind of is a combination of both. It affects both the shape of the letters and its relationship with its neighbors. For that reason, we do not recommend using a stroke on type. A superior technique here would be just to take that whole type selection, duplicate it, change the color, place it behind, and offset it a little bit. Okay, so you would just take this, remove the stroke, duplicate it, place it behind so it's exactly right behind, change the color, then nudge it, maybe arrow down and arrow to the right a little bit. What actually, theoretically, what you would do, since the light source of this image seems to be coming from right up here somewhere, you would try to preserve the light source in that kind of three-dimensional type presentation. You're also feel free to use any of the type special effects, and there's a bunch of examples and tutorials in the Welcome to Week 3 announcement. So really fantastic start. Again, I think the type is just, it's a little difficult to read. So either, as I said, either try to employ this technique here where you have actually got a color bar at the bottom of the poster to hold your type, or configure this in a way that it makes it a little bit more legible. All right, fantastic job. Great, very good. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you need any clarification, of course, let me know. I'll be glad to provide any of the above. All right, fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.